Today, we're jumping into some really interesting material that was shared with us. It's from Unscrewed Marketing.
Right. You might remember them as Vicky Wu marketing.
Exactly. And these sources, they're zeroing in on a mistake businesses make, one they say is incredibly common and maybe, well, more costly than people realize.
That's right. And our mission here really is to unpack the core insights from this material they've shared. We want to understand, what is this mistake?
Why does it happen?
Yeah. Why does it happen? What's the real cost? And then maybe most importantly, how you can potentially avoid it.
Okay.
Welcome to your marketing department, where we share the best tips for marketing your small business. And the full link to this topic is down in the description. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss our latest update.
So, get ready maybe to look at something pretty fundamental through a slightly different lens today. This deep dive might just shift how you think about getting help for your business growth. Let's dig in.
Okay. So the sources from Unscrewed Marketing, they're pretty direct about this. They pinpoint what they believe is the single biggest, most expensive mistake businesses tend to make with their marketing.
And that is?
Waiting too long. Just waiting too long to bring in outside expertise.
Okay, let's unpack that, because they describe a pattern here that it feels kind of familiar. They say businesses typically start looking for marketing help after they're already struggling.
Yes. Not when things are great and they want to go faster, but when things feel stuck or maybe slowing down.
Right.
That timing is just so critical because it puts the business in a totally different spot. When you're already struggling, well, your financial runway is shorter.
Less buffer.
Resources are stretched thin, just covering the immediate stuff. And, honestly, stress levels are usually sky high.
Everything just gets so much harder when you're in that survival mode, as they put it. I imagine strategic thinking just gets shoved aside.
Totally. You're just fighting fires.
And it's got to be hard to justify spending on growth when you're worried about making payroll next month.
Absolutely. And the mental fatigue they mention in the material. That's significant. Trying to solve complex marketing problems when you're already exhausted and stressed, well, making good decisions becomes incredibly difficult.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, maybe a little eye-opening. They note this powerful quote they hear all the time from new clients.
What is it?
Wow, we should have brought you in 6 months ago.
Yes, that quote really stands out. And what's just as telling is the detail they add right after. They have never, not once, had a client say, oh, we should have waited longer.
Never. Wow. That one line, it says so much, doesn't it?
It really does.
It suggests the value is clearly there, but the cost of waiting. Businesses feel that pretty deeply once they finally get the right help.
And building on this idea of when businesses look for help, another common misstep, one that often happens because they waited too long.
Okay.
When they finally decide, okay, we need help, many businesses first hire someone like a virtual assistant, a VA. Or just someone for, basic execution tasks.
Right, which seems logical at first glance. The owner's swamped. They just want tasks off their plate. Great, someone to do the social media posts.
It does feel logical, but make a really, really critical distinction here. It's fundamental, actually.
Which is?
It's the difference between hiring someone to do the work you tell them to do versus hiring someone who knows exactly what work actually needs doing to hit your goals.
Okay. I see the difference. It's like hiring someone to swing the hammer versus hiring the architect who gives you the blueprint first.
Exactly.
If you hire that VA first, you're still the architect. And maybe you're also trying to figure out the engineering on the fly.
Precisely. If you hire for execution first, you, the business owner, you're still responsible for the whole strategy. You have to figure out which tactics are actually effective for your business.
Which ones to prioritize.
How to prioritize them. Assess if the whole approach even makes sense. And let's be honest, marketing strategy often isn't the business owner's core strength, their zone of genius.
So you end up trying to drive the car, but maybe without a clear map, potentially down roads that just don't lead anywhere useful.
Exactly. And that leads to major missed opportunities and a lot of wasted effort on tactics that just aren't aligned with what would actually, move the needle.
But, okay, when you bring in a marketing expert first, the dynamic changes completely.
It really does. The expert comes in, assesses your specific situation, identifies the right places to focus based on their experience.
So they help you avoid the stuff that won't work.
Right. Avoid those low ROI activities or things that are just completely ineffective for you. They help put that proven strategic blueprint in place right from the start.
And a major benefit they highlighted is if you later decide you need execution help, maybe you bring on that VA, then they're totally set up for success.
Yeah, because there's already a clear expert-designed plan for them to follow. They're swinging the hammer, but with the right blueprint this time. And this leads us right back to the heart of that should have called sooner feeling clients have.
Right.
It's not just about the improvements they see once the experts are involved. It's maybe even more about the opportunities they realize they missed by waiting.
This really drives home that concept, which can be painful. You don't know what you don't know.
It really does. Businesses waiting, totally unaware of what was possible. Like maybe they didn't realize the huge potential ROI they were missing because their website was, well, fundamentally flawed.
Like no clear calls to action or not mobile friendly or no tracking.
Exactly. So every visitor was basically a potential lost sale, not just someone browsing.
Or maybe missing the whole lead generation power of a good content strategy. Think, blogging is just a nice to have, not a way to build a pipeline.
Precisely. Or maybe overlooking entire audience segments and just spending money on ads targeting the wrong people or using the wrong message. Basically just burning cash.
Ouch. So by delaying, businesses weren't just pausing their growth. They were actively losing time, losing money on stuff that didn't work, and crucially, losing momentum.
Yeah, momentum that could have been building towards real progress.
What's really fascinating, though, and it feels almost like a paradox, they say businesses that bring in expertise earlier often end up needing less help overall in the long run.
Wait, needing less help? That sounds completely counterintuitive. You'd think getting help earlier means a longer, more involved engagement.
That's the common thought, yeah. But the opposite is often true. Think about it like preventative care versus emergency surgery. If you get strategic guidance early on, you can often implement changes in smaller steps, more manageable steps. Things like maybe just short 1-hour strategy calls spread out over time.
Just to course correct as you go.
Exactly. You're building the house right from the start, brick by brick, with the architect checking in instead of needing a massive renovation later because the foundation's, cracking.
Right. Changes can be gradual at your own pace, which naturally keeps costs lower and it lets the business owner stay in control, maybe learn along the way too.
And crucially, getting that expert view early helps you avoid making those really expensive mistakes in the first place.
Like what?
Like maybe preventing that website that doesn't convert from ever being built, or stopping ad campaigns that just bleed money before you spend thousands, or making sure your core brand message actually connects with your audience from day one.
Okay, I see. Whereas waiting until things are critical, that usually means you have to move fast. The fuse is much shorter.
Right.
And that scenario almost always demands bigger, more immediate investments, much more intensive support to fix things quickly, and it forces you into making really hard decisions under a lot of pressure.
It's the difference between a few manageable checkups and a huge emergency room bill.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. So the sources kind of wrap up by posing a question directly to the listener, and it feels like the right one after discussing all this.
What's the question?
Are you currently in what they'd call the we should have called sooner zone?
Yeah, if you feel a sense of recognition listening to this pattern maybe you have been putting off, getting marketing help, telling yourself, I'll figure it out soon, or just focusing on the urgent tasks yourself, then this deep dive, it's kind of a signpost.
According to the material from Unscrewed Marketing, based on everything we've just talked about, the absolute best time to bring in marketing expertise, that was probably months ago.
Okay.
But the second best time. That's definitely right now.
And it's important to remember, as they emphasize, getting help doesn't have to mean, signing up for a full outsourced marketing department immediately.
Right. It could just start small.
It could just be a few strategic conversations to get that clear blueprint, clarify your direction, and just keep you on the right track before that financial runway starts feeling too short.
So, summing up our deep dive into these unscrewed marketing sources, the core message seems to be that waiting to get expert marketing help, it's not just a harmless delay.
No, they describe it as a really costly mistake.
Yeah, one that severely limits your strategic options later, massively increases stress when you do finally seek help, and maybe, most importantly, means missing out on potentially huge growth opportunities.
Opportunities you might not even realize are there while you're busy trying to figure out the strategy yourself.
And the interesting paradox we talked about. Acting sooner, even just taking small strategic steps to get expert guidance. That can actually make the whole path to growth easier and surprisingly, maybe more affordable in the long run.
Because it provides that crucial direction early and helps you sidestep those expensive pitfalls before they happen.
Exactly. So here's a final thought for you to consider, just something to mull over after hearing all this. What potential opportunities might you be unknowingly leaving on the table right now simply because you're trying to navigate your business's marketing strategy entirely on your own?
A few months from now, you're either going to be relieved that you fixed your marketing or regretting that you didn't. The guesswork, the wasted budget, the missed leads, it doesn't have to keep happening. Grab your 360-degree marketing assessment now at unscrewedmarketing.com and let's get you a strategy that actually works before you lose more time chasing tactics that don't.